Well, I might say something else. What exactly were you looking for me to say, Michael?
Nothing that I'm going to repeat in the first few seconds of this fine broadcast. Who do you think I am, Bailey?
Well, that's true. You're the professional here.
Wait, what are you guys talking
sometimes.
We're talking about your propensity to swear a lot.
Yes.
Within the first couple of minutes.
Which is what we're always talking about at this point.
Yes.
My first driver's license was issued by the state of New York, so that should tell you everything.
That tells us a lot.
It
Hi,
does.
everybody. Welcome to Sidebar.
Good evening.
Bailey's from New York.
Whoa.
That's right.
So we have Michael and me and Bailey, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Lindsay here this evening. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Lindsay.
I know that
Very
you've
happy
wanted
to
to
have
join
you.
us for some time, and we're happy to have you. And yeah, so we're going to talk about celebrity / high profile cases and kind of that justice and how it works or doesn't work and whatnot. But this was very much a Michael idea. So, Mikey, do you want to kind of kick us off and let us know kind of what you're thinking, and we can go from there? And
Sure.
Then by the end, solve nothing like we normally do.
I wouldn't have it any other way, Dan.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, so the reason I started even kind of going down this road was because just a couple of weeks ago, Michelle was watching the Cardi B civil trial, and I guess I watched some of it. I did see some of it, and I guess it revolves around Cardi B was going to a doctor's office. I guess while she was pregnant. She didn't want people to know she was pregnant. There was a security guard working there, this woman who supposedly took Cardi B's picture, I guess. They had some words. There was allegedly a physical altercation in which the security guard got her nose pretty badly scratched and required plastic surgery, again, allegedly. And, well, no criminal charges were ever filed, but it went to a civil trial, which took several years to even happen in the first place, because this was an incident that happened in 2018, and the civil trial just happened. The wheels of justice really blazing along. And which is probably another topic for another sidebar. But this was an interesting trial because, of course, you really got to see everything on display. The quality of attorney that, the average person gets versus the quality of attorney that someone like Cardi B can afford. But overall, it came down to a jury deciding the outcome. Jury didn't buy into the security guard story. Cardi B walked away not having to pay anything and vowing to countersue anyone that ever goes after her like that again. But Cardi B was very gracious and, wished the woman, well and everything like that. But yeah, this got me into the whole, do celebrities get a different brand of justice? Do high profile cases have judges acting differently and juries acting differently? And how does this affect the justice system overall? There's a lot to unpack in this kind of topic. And I think it kind of got started from the OJ trial, which was kind of like the OG of high profile cases, if you will. That's really kind of what, at least in the modern era, if you will, in the 24-hour news cycle era, back in the 90s, when CNN was the first of the 24-hour news cycles, and when the internet was at its infancy. And so it just kind of got me thinking about that whole topic and where to go from there. And so there's a lot we could talk about with this, but that's sort of the genesis of this.
Well, I guess my initial reaction to what you're saying is, do they have like an advantage? Yeah. Is there a bias towards them? Yeah. My initial reaction, and we can unpack it from here, would be that there is only positives for them overall, unless they're like ultra super guilty. But even then, OJ, in my opinion, was ultra super guilty.
Yes.
But somehow he walked.
Well, now, of course, he ultimately did jail time.
Then he got like 17 consecutive life sentences for stealing his own shirts, which was a little weird. But
I forgot about that.
Whatever.
I think he got sentenced to 33 years and wound up doing like I don't know, a couple of years. It wasn't. He didn't do a long time.
I don't know. What are your thoughts, Lindsay?
Yes.
I mean, I'm of several minds about it. I think the high profile cases tend to pique the curiosity into the justice system. And then there's kind of the trickle down of, finding channels like this. You start watching court footage on YouTube and then it feeds you, smaller, court channels. It feeds you local court channels. You start learning more about it. So I think, as far as visibility to the justice system, it could be a really interesting entry point. As far as, is it maybe a most accurate portrayal? Are they getting an easier path? Absolutely. When you already have a lawyer on retainer, you're kind of starting the, the run on third base. Yeah. And there's something to be said maybe about the court of public opinion and the media circus that tends to go around these things. It's in the news cycle because there's reporters outside because they want to see, this celebrity, this public figure walking by, and then you start breaking down what they're wearing. If I see one more freaking article telling me what Luigi Mangioni's wearing to court, I'm going to lose it. The case is what it is, but I don't need to know what brand of shoes the man wore, and I like shoes. So it's a very interesting topic of conversation. I'm excited to pick apart, but I'm of many different minds about it.
Well, and it is interesting because Dan said unless they're ultra super guilty, they probably get a better brand of justice. But, I think a lot of the high profile cases, the people are ultra super guilty and they do wind up going to prison. Yeah. Sometimes for life. I mean, let's look at, obviously OJ didn't, but after that, I mean, you had, let's look at the, Scott Peterson. I mean, that case, guy kills his pregnant lover and dumps her in the bay and eventually does go to prison. Now, of course, there's been talk of trying to get him out. I guess, the Menendez brothers, that might have been maybe pre-OJ, I guess, technically, but there's that.
Before I just looked that up. Happened in 89. And I guess they both applied for parole and they're like, absolutely not.
Yes. And then there's, Jodi Arias, she life, you have Lori Vallow, Brian Kohberger. Now, who knows what's going to happen in the Luigi Mangione case because the circumstances surrounding that are a little bit different. And that's another topic maybe for another day too about jury nullification and who knows how that's going to play out. We have no idea. I couldn't answer that, but there's so many of these cases that wind up where the person goes to prison. I mean, Derek Chauvin, in Minneapolis, with George Floyd, all of these cases seem to go the same way, generally speaking. I think OJ is more the outlier. So maybe it shows people that the justice system is okay. I hope that's the message people take away from it, even though it is super, super slow. I think that's the other message people get from it is, how come it took Jodi Arias, who killed Travis Alexander, stabbed him 27 times and shot him, and wound up taking
Jodi
5.
Arias kill her daughter?
No, that was, you're thinking Casey Anthony.
Casey Anthony. I'm sorry. You're right.
It gets confusing. There's so many of them.
Yes. Yeah. And it is a media circus and there is a lot that goes on there. But I think ultimately in most cases, I think justice is served on them. It does expose the good and the bad of the justice system, and maybe that's okay. And, then it does filter down to channels like this, where people get to see and have a curiosity more in the justice system. And I think it's mostly, again, just like we've talked about with body cams, I think it's a net positive overall. Yeah, there's negatives, but I think overall it's a win for exposing the justice system, good and bad.
I have a thought on that, but before we monopolize the time, Bailey, you've been quiet.
Dan, you mentioned only positives, and I put a little question mark behind it. I made a note about it. Like, there's only positives for these celebrities, and you've made great arguments, and Lindsay also makes great arguments. These folks tend to have the means for high-profile attorneys that kind of focus on this sort of stuff. Case in point would be the Amber Heard trial versus Depp. That Depp attorney was incredible. She was on fire. It was both a PR campaign strategy
Yeah.
and a legal in the courtroom, four corners of a courtroom strategy, and they won. This was a full-on campaign, and I don't even want to know how much he paid for that. And also, Lindsay mentioned the media celebrity kind of circus that comes around with this. You're going to have law firms out there who are going to percolate and serve these needs specifically for these individuals, high wealth individuals. Two more examples to go to your point, Dan, and the one was the O.J. Simpson. Speaking of celebrities getting favorable kind of treatment, and O.J. I did some digging. O.J. Simpson was given more rights as a prisoner. For example, longer breaks during his highly publicized trial, presumably due to his celebrity status. This was a research paper I found overnight. In another high-profile case, NBA star Charles Barkley was accused of throwing a person through a window. The judge in the case demonstrated preferential treatment by delaying the trial to accommodate Barkley's playing schedule. So there's no question that celebrity can have an impact on judges in certain cases, right? The one I found where I'm going to push back a little on the only positive thing of having celebrity status, because it can be a double-edged sword. Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart received unfavorable media attention, according to this research, throughout her trial, which potentially led to a sentence that was disproportionate to the crime she committed. The original crime that she was accused of that got her in all this was securities fraud. Well, they dropped that charge. And what they ended up coming back at her for, this is a DA and the whole media circus that we've been talking about that gives some people a shield. This was a sword against a high-profile celebrity who was presenting herself to be a homemaker, a cook, perfect, and she is super uber wealthy, and here she has to cheat, and she's committing fraud, and she, securities fraud. So what the DA does in response is they come back to her, speaking of the topic of overcharging. So this is actually going to your guys' argument from previous shows about how people kind of overcharge and then they go down to the little stuff. Well, this is what the government did. They got her with obstruction because she was lying during the investigation of the securities fraud. That's obstruction of justice. If the FBI comes to you and you lie to them in a docket or in a document or a deposition, you're obstructing justice. Conspiracy and false statement. 1,500 people wrote letters because she's a celebrity. 1,500 celebrities, including Rosie O'Donnell. Who else did I write down? Bill Cosby, which I found ironic. Wrote in letters of support to the judge, and the judge actually said, I read all of them, and I took them into consideration in the sentencing I'm about to place, which was 5 months behind bars, 5 months home confinement. Ooh, that's got to be awful. Just stay home and make cookies. And 2 years probation, which was the minimum charge. So she did get we got justice, but it kind of, not just celebrities don't always get the best treatment.
Well, that was a financial crime.
Yeah. Can I piggyback on that too a little bit? Danny Masterson's another one that comes up if you think about the fallout of kind of the celebrity spotlight. So he got sentenced for sexual assault charges, and before his sentencing, people were writing letters of support. The entire That 70s Show cast wrote letters of support, and the fallout for Mila Kunis and what's his name, Ashton Kutcher, was massive. They've had to step away from their business. There was again meme central of their apology video where they were sitting in front of this wall very contrite. So yeah, I mean, these fallouts are massive, and not only net positives for these folks, for sure.
Can I interject on the well, that was only a financial crime, or was a financial crime you mentioned? Didn't we see it wasn't a theft, it was like embezzlement. There was a Michigan hearing we had where someone was stealing from their company forever and totally depleted everyone's life savings.
That was in Lenawee. That was in front of Judge Anzalone, and we had a similar thing which we didn't cover on the channel, but it was down near you here in Arizona,
and completely destroyed this generations of families' lives and their company, and tore it apart. And if I'm not mistaken, did that person go to jail? I think they got probation. If I'm not, because we were really upset about something.
So they had
that was a probation case,
and
they had to pay back, but they had to pay it back within.
That's right.
I think it's some small amount of time, like 5 years or something.
What weighing is like, if I throw you in jail, none of these people are going to get restitution. But he completely destroyed these people's lives. So, Dan, when you say, well, that was a financial crime, I'm sorry. She just tried to cheat a little bit and make a little bit more money. I mean, she wasn't hurting anybody.
Well, allow me to explain a little more. When I said, but that was a financial crime, I think that she was looked on in the media more negatively and in the public space more negatively because it was a financial crime. I honestly, as bad as this is to say, she probably would have fared better in the public spotlight if she'd hurt somebody physically.
Yeah.
Than mess with financial kind of stuff, because the general public just does not like that sort of thing.
Meanwhile, I thought it was BS that she got time because, for supposed insider trading, when Congress, like every member of Congress engages in that like daily and nothing ever happens. But it was almost like this was the justice system wanting to say, hey, we still have this ability. So we're going to pick on, good old Martha Stewart, everyone's, everyone's grandma, and we're going to send her to prison because she might have engaged in insider trading, even though we can't necessarily prove it to the degree that we thought we could, but we're still doing it anyway.
Yeah, Beth here in the studio just signaled touchdown when you said that, by the way, about Congress.
Yeah.
But so true.
It was just BS. And that's the other thing is sometimes, not that people don't like Martha Stewart, but I think there are certain cases where people definitely have a more negative opinion towards someone, and I kind of wonder how that may influence. I mean, look, people sit on juries. Normal people sit on juries. How does that influence somebody that's just sitting on a jury? If there's a celebrity that's less popular, or that has a reputation for being kind of a very polarizing person, what could that do? And so that's another question I have about this. And that's why I think this is kind of an interesting look into our justice system. That's for sure.
So I had something come up in my mind when you were talking a few minutes ago, Michael. You were saying how, at least with these high-profile celebrity cases and the publicity they get and everything else, at least people get to see our justice system, right?
Yeah.
I believe those were the words that you said.
Yes.
And maybe that was a good thing. But here's the question I have. In these cases, is what they're seeing really what our justice system is? Or are they seeing an altered version of it because of the celebrity status? And again, I would start by looking back to the OG, go to the OJ case.
Yeah.
Was that was a circus.
It was.
There was, but it was compelling. I mean, all of America was watching when the verdict came down, and they were watching for the months going on prior. But it was a complete circus. It wasn't really how our system worked. And in the end, was justice really served? I know, Bailey, you'll talk about how you believe in the verdict of the jury and all that, but, let's be real. The guy killed her.
Right. But they wanted to drag Mark. It was because they dragged Mark Furman through the mud, and that was ultimately kind of part of what did it, and it became more of an issue of race and than anything else. I mean, that's and other peripheral issues, and not necessarily about the facts of the case. Again, I don't know, Dan. You raise a really great question. I think it does shine a light on the justice system, and it shows partially how it does work and how it doesn't work. It doesn't necessarily. It shows the good and the bad and the circus that it can be, and it definitely these high profile cases are. I think sometimes people think justice is served because it turns out the way most people think it should. But is that necessarily how it is supposed to work? Well, that's another issue, I guess, altogether.
Yeah, I guess I asked this question just because of the feedback that I sometimes see here on this channel. You can present a case here that's compelling, that has a good legal argument or a good storyline to it or whatever. But because it's not over the top, like so many people see in these celebrity cases, they come back with, why am I watching this? Is that it? So it leads me to wonder, how much are these celebrity cases really coloring what we see and not necessarily doing it in a good way? It's a question.
Fair point. That is a fair point.
I got a lot to say.
Shocker.
But it's kind of rude. It's like, if you think, if you're one of those people, the only time you're watching court is if there's a celebrity in there, and you think that's how you're going to learn how the system works, I don't want to know you. So,
Bailey.
To hell with your ignorance, and And so when these people, that's why I had to do a lot of research for this show, is because I don't watch these. I don't get up into it, and I have a job and a life, and no, I don't care about these celebs. Now, is it interesting? Does it raise really good questions? And that's why I did some digging on this. Absolutely, but no, I don't think it's the job of these kind of celebrity trials to teach people how the criminal justice system works. And if anything, that everybody's going to be on edge. You got a DA, a prosecutor who's really trying to do a very freaking good job. If you want to bring a celebrity in and do this, I bet you they've definitely had meetings about bringing charges. Can we really do this? Are we really going to bring charges against a celebrity? And if we are, we better check all these boxes. Mm-hmm. So I don't go out there and look like a jackass. The defense, I mean, they're going to have to do that. And then the judges on the spot, because they know 20 million eyeballs are going to be on him, and everybody's watching this thing. So it's kind of like a high pressure situation, high pressure cooker kind of situation. I love the Judge Middleton moments where he's explaining the law and he's actually explaining his rulings, and that's where you're going to learn. So if you want to learn about court, folks, subscribe to TCF and get your butt in here in the morning.
Thank you for the plug, Bailey.
I
don't know, Lindsay. What are your thoughts on this? Do I?
Yeah.
I mean, do I have a point here? Is it coloring the justice system in a bad way? Because I wonder if it might be.
I mean, I still stand by my point where it can be that entry point for folks. You get super into a high-profile case, and suddenly the algorithm's feeding you this stuff. But I think there is some truth to that fact of it is the circus. It is the, I'm struggling with my words tonight, but I think you can argue both sides of it to some case.
Well, I wonder if it's like for, and Michael, you'll understand what I'm saying. If it's like long form video versus shorts,
Yeah.
Yes.
they entertain in a different way and they pull in a different audience.
I can
look at my channel analytics, and it's literally two separate audiences. I have an audience for shorts and I have an audience for long form, and they really don't cross a whole lot. And I wonder if the celebrity thing is kind of the same thing, because you said it was like an entry point, and I get that, and on the surface I might agree, but then again, if I look at like the comments that I see sometimes on some of these videos where people are like disappointed because there's not more circus, you know?
Yeah. And I think that might
don't
filter
know.
some people that, were initially interested out, but I think those that are truly curious about this, will stick around, like, I use myself as the example. I got pulled into this whole thing when Judge Simpson's driving case kind of was making a splash on all the TMZ and everything. And I watched one video about it, and then suddenly that's all my YouTube's offering me. And they weren't nearly as entertaining as Judge Simpson yelling at a guy for driving and, the kind of the deer in the headlights reaction. But you start to fall in love with the process and the procedure, and you start to recognize, these different bits and of, this judge does this way, and this state does this way, and I don't really like to watch this state, but I'll sit through it because this guy explains things really well. So I think it's kind of that initial net, but I think you're like anything, you're going to lose the folks that were just there to see, the big reaction of your celebrity.
That's fair. It may be a net to people who are interested in learning, which I think the four of us here are, and so many who join us on this channel are, but we're probably a little more of the exception than the rule. I would hope it would be the opposite, but it probably isn't.
I'm afraid to say you're right on that, Dan. But I mean, you are going to get a more engaged audience from those types that want to learn, and I think it's not the same audience. I don't think that watches the high profile cases, like the people that watch Lori Vallow, the people that watch Scott Peterson and all of that. It's not the same audience of people that probably, wants to watch, like today, I was watching Judge McNally reject contemplating rejecting a plea, which it was actually a very interesting case. And you could argue it's a mini circus. It's a small circus, but it's not the level of compelling of a Lori Vallow in terms of, we've got all these experts and all these witnesses and there's people dead and it's a woman that's clearly a psychopath and but the McNally case is somebody that this woman committed domestic violence and got pled down to misuse
walking on the wrong sidewalk or something?
Sidewalks, yes. And Judge McNally was having a fit, like, I can't believe I'm accepting this plea, but I don't really have much of a choice, so I'm going to accept it. But to me, that's just as interesting, but from a different angle. That's like, wow, some lawyer managed to really argue this down and get a plea that was insane and should not have happened, which still to me that's interesting. Now maybe to the mouth breathers that only want to see dead kids and someone get killed, hung up by their short hairs for dead kids, I guess that's not compelling, but who needs that kind of an audience anyway, I guess, right? Because those people aren't, that's a different kind of audience. They're not really interested in learning.
Mike, you brought up a really good point earlier about like the jury system, and Lindsay brought up this tied in with what you were saying about kind of the circus, and that had me really worried too. It's like when we have these high profile cases, obviously most of them get a jury, and people have to be on a jury, and they have to be voir dired, and how many of those people do you think really, really want to be on that jury and lie during voir dire? I bet you a lot.
You know what, Bailey? That's another really interesting aspect to this topic is that, I don't know how many of you guys have ever been on a jury.
Never even called.
Wow. I've been on a jury. I've been called a few times, but only actually ever served on a jury once. And for a theft case, which, I thought the guy was going to plead and didn't. But it was, it was very interesting. And the voir dire was pretty simple. It wasn't like a lot of questions. It was just more like, hey, I think it was almost like, hey, have you ever stolen something? Like, or something. It was like just weird. There was a weird couple of questions I remember. And then pretty much they're like, okay, well, this guy's all right. This was 21 years ago. I was on this jury. So I don't remember it as well. But it was kind of interesting. But I know for these higher profile cases, when you have the big time lawyers, the process is obviously a lot different, and the quality of person that you get may or may not be different. But I don't know. That's a great question though, Bailey, about the kind of person that you're going to get on a jury like that. You would hope that people would be honest and that they'd want to do their civic duty, but
one of the things
insert cynical comment here, like
that's
you would hope that there wouldn't be people misinterpreting or misspeaking their intentions to maybe eventually get like the book deal or the podcast deal.
Yes,
like telling it what was it like to be a juror, and we're in the age where these things happen.
For the clicks, for the likes, for anything.
Yeah.
The OJ jury. And
I can make money off of this, and that's the most American
I'd
thing
never
I
have
do
to work
here.
a day in my life again because I'll get
and
this.
the OJ jury, that's kind of very, very early days of the internet. That's, when we were still on CompuServe and, like that was,
when you had to go on the computer in like the living room rather than having it just in your pocket. Nowadays,
where it's just, a ubiquitous part of the culture.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Yeah. That's probably a whole show in itself, Bailey. That's a rabbit hole for sure.
And the other thing, and this is why I know this is a consideration that defense attorneys take regarding the whole jury debate we're having right now. The Kyle Rittenhouse, that trial, that defense did, I believe, 5 to 8. I believe it was 8 mock trials with 8 different, they only did 6 each, and to try to test their different legal theories. Why? This is a high profile case. Everybody's eyeballs is on this, right? This guy drove across state lines, and we all saw the video, and I watched that. I love that part where the prosecutor gets his ass chewed by the judge. But this is a consideration that judges have to, consider. Like, can you be impartial against somebody who did this, and like test that theory not once, but up to 8 times, and try to figure out what's our best jury pool, who's our best candidates for this high-profile trial to get the result we want. I mean, we know we can CYA and we can do our legal stuff, but we're trying to convince a jury of his peers on a very high-profile case. So that kind of goes back to the whole thing where there are law firms out there who are there to do the PR and the legal strategy.
Bailey, you just bring up an interesting point here again. So we've talked on this channel about Judge Fleischer, right? And the criticism that people have had of Judge Fleischer, which is not my criticism, but others have brought it up that, and some other judges like Judge Boyd or Judge Simpson that play up to the camera, right? Mm-hmm. But in these higher profile cases, be it celebrity or just high profile, big media cases, do the judges play up to the camera, even if they say they're not, and even if they try to go out of their way to not? Does that happen? I mean, because we talk about juries and what behavior a juror may have, but do these judges do that? Did, just like Lance Ito with the, OJ case, and Judge Boyce with the Lori Vallow, and then here in Arizona, I guess that was Judge Bareski, who was also Michelle's divorce attorney, or divorce judge. That's, how do you, do those judges play up to the camera?
Yeah, I think we see that sometimes, not with celebrity stuff, but with our own judges that we watch for sure. And in the case of going back to OJ with Ito, I don't know if he played up to the cameras, but he was certainly influenced by them. I don't know if you remember partway through that trial, there was a camera that he thought had zoomed in on some paperwork, and then he cut everything, and we're not gonna broadcast this anymore. And then all of a sudden, there's just this deluge of lawyers coming at him, going, "Oh yes, you are," and he caved to it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and it was back on the air a couple hours later.
I remember that.
I think the cameras have an effect on everybody.
I don't know. I guess I'm trying to be a little half full with these. I mean, my call me naive, please beat me up. I don't think you get into a career in law, and let's take a Judge Boyd, for instance. Went to law school. I believe she started as a defense attorney first, then went to the prosecution side, and then became a judge. I mean, these are professionals who are building a career, and everything's on the line, like their bar license to be able to practice. I don't think they really want to kind of test those waters, and perhaps that was one of the reasons why Judge Fleischer just was like, you know what, I don't even want to talk about this no more, whether people think I'm playing it up maybe I genuinely believe that's his personality. He seems like a super nerd to me. He plays video games. He's a family man. I genuinely believe he believes in protecting his community. I believe the words that come out of his mouth. Now, is he a little theatrical about it? And what is he, walking while black? Putting people on blast, putting the state on blast. He's not afraid to, pull out the book and pull out, you know what I mean? And I believe most judges are like that. Are there some bad ones out there, bad apples? And as you guys were kind of correcting me, Bailey, the other time with judges can be called out, and there's a review kind of thing. So
right.
Theatrics are to the point where they're being egregious and it's influencing a case, or it's that kind of thing. I don't know. I kind of hope everyone is kosher, but that's why we have cameras in there, and at least in the state level, not the federal level, of course, but they have audio too. So
the super optimist in me hopes that because they know they have that level of camera on them for the really high profile things, that they are on their best behavior, that they're being as impartial as they can, that they're following procedure. You have the whole of the country and half of the Western world watching you, straighten up and fly right. But, to the other point, there are the bad actors out there that see their moments and are going to see
the realistic side comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what your overall motivations are in life.
Yeah.
Some people crave
you want the
power
book deal,
and
or do you want to throw the book at somebody?
Again, you look at like an Ito. I think it got the best of him, but I forget the judge's name. But we'd mentioned Rittenhouse earlier. If you watched any of that judge was pretty dialed in, and wasn't over the top. Kept it real focused. He did it well. So, but different personalities. So I think probably your personality for the judge, for the lawyers, for everybody, if you have a personality that kind of craves that celebrity, then you're gonna cave to it when the opportunity
speaking of celebrity, I absolutely believe there's an element of some DAs out there, young DAs, trying to make a name for themselves, and these fuckers are elected officials. And they have a campaign to run. They need to make money. They need to get reelected. So you know what? We'll get a lot of attention and eyeballs on me. I'm going to bring, what's his name? Baldwin. I'm going to charge him. Even though the state already got the two people directly responsible for one, put the actual bullet in there, and then somebody gave the bullet to, anyway, they already got the people responsible for the death of this, but they were like, oh no, we're gonna bring Baldwin in here. I absolutely believe that person was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just try it. Let's just I think we checked off most of the elements, to bring a charge and put this man through hell. I mean, he busted out in tears, and I don't believe that was acting at all. I mean, this man, I genuinely, it was an accident. That's why we have manslaughter cases. They brought it, the jury didn't buy it, or wait, was it no, the jury didn't buy it, and not guilty.
I forgot about Baldwin. By the way, just real quick sideline. Ashley, if you're listening out there, 3903 is the timestamp to mark in your journal for Bailey's first F word. 3903.
I'll try to make it to 40 next time.
Anyways, as we were saying, I totally forgot about the whole Alec Baldwin thing.
Yeah, I thought it was garbage. I mean, they had to play it through. All right, but how much money did he have to spend? And I know these people are super wealthy, but that doesn't mean I'm sure they got they're family people too. I'm sure they got other better ways to spend money than on legal fees and attorneys.
Yeah.
Well,
it kind of comes with the game though too. These people, I think Lindsay mentioned earlier, these people are just on retainer,
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that in and of itself gives you a huge advantage. There's no question that anytime you have an attorney, you need an attorney. Generally speaking, we've watched a lot of people try the pro se. We've watched the soft sits, and we've watched all. Generally speaking, I mean, unless obviously, small claims, there are no attorneys, but. Other than that, sometimes people go at it alone in these situations, and you don't want to do that. And that's why, and of course, they always get the best attorneys, and because they can afford it, or a team of attorneys, like in the OJ case. I mean, he had like 4 or 5 guys. I mean, so
he had everybody.
Yeah, he did. Although I think every single one of them is dead now, but
no,
I think.
No, Dershowitz. He's still
going. That's true. He's still going.
He's hanging
Professor
on.
Dershowitz was on that. And
Dershowitz.
the DNA guy. I forget what his name was.
Yes. Okay.
He's still going.
Yes.
He's actually, I think, part of the Innocence Project now.
Irony.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. See, but there's just so many different angles of all of this, and that's why I kind of enjoy. But I mean, this is what drew me into court, I guess, in the first place, is just because I was always kind of interested in law as a kid. I was interested in a lot of weird things. I was into radio, but I would listen to not only just music but talk radio and news and law, and my mom worked for attorneys forever and ever and ever. She just retired in the last few months. And,
Congrats, Mom.
and I've always had that interest in law. And I think, but certainly things like OJ, and I think it accelerated it for me because that's all there was back then before there was court TV and, you just got those little glimpses of what the justice system was all about outside of, the shows of like LA Law and Law and Order and all that stuff. But I mean, in terms of reality, that was your glimpse into it. Now it's great. TCF, we can watch this kind of stuff every day here. And I think the other thing that's kind of interesting about, now in the age of the internet, in the age of YouTube, in the age of Zoom and all this, the other angle to this case, or this topic is cases becoming high profile just based on notoriety. We've all seen the Judge Fleischer clips that circulate around the internet, and Judge Boyd clips, and some of these cases that would normally be only local news suddenly becoming national headlines because of how they're handled.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah. So now any case conceivably can become high profile and, put a judge and a prosecutor or a team of attorneys on the map. in a good or bad way.
Very true. Just a couple examples from the channel. Mr. Magoo up in Judge Simpson's court,
Yes.
which, by the way, is not spelled Magoo, but that's how everybody in the law tube community is spelling it. 200. It's just short of 250,000 views on this channel for the one video that I have done on that.
My goodness.
The case where Boyd with the lawyer who called the cops on the client because the dead bodies everywhere guy.
Yeah.
Creeping up on 150,000 views, 1,000 comments, 3,200 likes, and that lawyer actually contacted us behind the scenes to share his views on that.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, you make a good point. Just examples from this channel. We're not the biggest, so if you go to others that are even bigger, you're going to have even bigger examples of these things becoming high profile,
Right.
even though they're really not. But you know, these are cases that people in this YouTube space are talking about that, you know, aren't necessarily celebrity, but they're quasi high profile.
You guys make an incredible point. The only little thing I wanted to add real quick was you were mentioning we kind of had limited access back in the day to like view court unless there were a high profile case. And yet we all knew how to walk into a courtroom, dress appropriately and acting appropriately. But with today's world,
Beth's
court
laughing.
is so prolific,
Yeah.
TCF is so prolific, and we got these boneheads still walking in there being boneheaded.
Fashion court.
Yes. The
Highlight of
Judge
my
West.
Monday.
Judge
Yes.
West Mondays.
Well, Bailey, I'll say this. I think that might be more of a function of current society, just in general. This is a sidebar, a side tangent to sidebar, but I think that's just a function of the way society is trending, where everybody is just all about themselves and who gives a damn about, like there's just no kind of self-respect. So
I think
I know this is a topic Dan goes on. Was that Lindsay?
2020 and kind of the cultural shifts that came from that, most of us that weren't essential workers spent a year in our sweatpants, and now we just kind of think that we can go about the world in our sweatpants or what have you. So,
well, you saw it trending that way even before then.
yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I went to the grocery store and there's, dudes in like wife beaters, if that, or just shirtless, and, women in sports bras or dudes in sports bras, whatever nowadays, who knows? And that's now it's just such a regular thing that it's like, if I see anyone that's, mostly wearing halfway respectable clothes, like not an FU, I do what I want shirt or whatever they've got at the store, I'm surprised. And it's in court too. I mean, it's permeating everywhere. So this is, that's kind of the interesting part of this too. And, high profile cases or not, and sometimes I think that might even in and of itself that makes for a maybe not high profile, but at least meme moments, just like the Judge Middleton, that
moment.
that moment.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
So that's the other thing is I think nowadays, not only can anything become high profile, but then there's a lot of memes and there's a lot of people. It's almost this sort of subculture that sort of develops around some of these bizarre incidents that occur online, in court or otherwise, I guess. I mean, I suppose court is just no different than just a function or just a representation of how society is trending in general. If we can get a little philosophical, I guess.
It seems to be. Real quick, Credence and Mikey, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. Appreciate that. Yeah, Probably not in a good way, though. You would hope that court would be the one place where maybe we would maintain our decorum.
Yeah.
But how much of that, I suppose, is affected by all of the outlandish behavior that you can see in these higher profile cases, and people having that mindset of that's how court works, so they bring it into court with them.
Right, Dan. Does it become sort of a cycle? Does it become sort of a self-feeding, like a feedback loop? Is that what starts to happen? People see this outrageous behavior, so they figure they can be outrageous. Is that does one sort of, is it a cause-effect relationship? Like what's happening there too? That's another. I hadn't really thought of that until you mentioned it.
You guys know I do my homework, and I'm a nerd, and I go into the weeds. The answer is, Mike, these people don't give a fuck or shit about anybody.
Either one, huh?
They go outside and they don't give a shit, Mike. That's the answer. That's the scientific answer to these idiots out there. And they're, we could get all philosophical and deep on this, and I love to swim in those waters. I could do that all day, but they just don't give a shit.
Bailey's like, they don't give an F or an S.
Yeah, I'm burning this house
It's
down.
the science, man.
At the end of the show, I'm just going to burn this house down. So, do you want to know what the research actually said? Even though we don't solve things,
Bailey in his lab coat, like, hey, I don't.
So,
I
even though
don't
we don't solve
get it.
things here on Sidebar, the research that I did, it has an answer to the question about celebrity in court. Do you want to hear it? But there's a kicker at the end that actually pissed me off.
Only if it's scientific.
It is very scientific. So, in sum, there were no significant differences in verdicts found based on celebrity status. Significant relationships between verdicts and perceptions of the defendant weren't affected at all, despite polls revealing a general belief that celebrities got better treatment in the court systems. Our study shows that this is not necessarily the case. It's carefully written. I've had to do these before. But the one line that totally pissed me off after I did all of this research and I went through all their stuff and I crossed it out in red because I was so mad last night. One limitation, just one limitation of the current study is that the celebrities in the trial summary were not real celebrities. So they were getting people and they were saying...
Who the hell were they then?
Well,
what they were doing were like mock trials, and they'd be like, Lindsay, you're going to play the beautiful celebrity, and we're going to do a trial, and we're going to see, and like, I'll play the non-celebrity or something, and we're going to test this over and over and over and see if there is a difference between... But
didn't analyze actual footage.
They didn't, right.
They
and I'm
just
like...
cosplayed court.
To do what Dan does, like, I threw the pen last night. I was like, well, one limitation? I've been reading this whole time thinking you guys were digging into real cases with real people like Judge frickin' Judy. No. This was just us getting together and just, making it up, kind of.
So...
I'm shocked. Somebody made up data?
I know.
Wow.
And as I was reading it, I know how to read between lines and whether or not something's kind of cogent. And they had 3 professors come together and do it. And they did it more from a social, psychological science area. And you can get away with a lot of things. And for me, if they did it from a more political thing, I would be looking at numbers and very hard claims. And so I know how to read data. It's okay. I think they got away with it. It got published at a proper place, at a law school. So, passed somebody's smell test, but who knows what the hell that was.
So to
the
reiterate...
one limitation, as I was reading it said one limitation. And I was
limitation?
And I was like, what? Anyway, nerd alert over now.
One limitation? That's like... So... We have this theory about celebrities getting better justice, and we did an entire investigation. Celebrities were not actually used. Like, they didn't actually...
Thanks, Mike. You did.
Yeah, like what? Look, that's a pretty big limitation.
And you
That's a
told me
pretty
that-
sizable, like the whole crux of your argument.
all day, but I'm not actually Taylor Swift. Like, that's going to be a very different interpretation. Me sitting here with red lipstick singing versus the actual human.
We dressed up Lindsay like Taylor Swift, and we dressed Mike up like who could we dress? Shrek, and we
Mike-
determined. Donkey. Oh, so I didn't get the same brand of justice. Hey, so like, okay. Well, I'm not gonna get mad at you, Bailey. I do. Again, if that study had a face, I would slap it. That is just awful.
For legal purposes, that was a joke. No one is getting slapped here.
Right.
Well, I mean, if it's a study, it can get slapped. It's not a person. I don't think we don't, as of yet, have.
Trying not to get Dan a strike on his check.
Oh, I don't think he's gonna get. Well, okay, maybe he would nowadays.
You never know.
You never know. You know what? I just remembered. I forgot. I'm living in 2025. I keep forgetting that we've gone completely mad. My bad.
I'll get a strike just because I've maintained that this is sane versus insane, and this is a sane space.
Yeah.
That alone will get me a strike.
Yeah.
Just because I'm on Team Sanity. So
yeah,
I'm
telling you, Dan, this is things have gone sideways. It used to be celebrity cases and high profile cases where you'd be like, oh man, what a circus. And nowadays, the interesting part is kind of tying it back into where we started is now it's so kind of blasé. It's this kind of, we just sort of expect things to be kind of wacky with it. And by today's standards of social media and YouTube nonsense, and actually, I mean, a lot of these high profile cases aren't that nuts. Yeah, they're dealing with very serious things. At least some of them are. And, it's gross and it's awful and it's, it's a stain on society, some of these people. But, it's really not that far out of bounds from where we are as a society. And I think that's more of a sad commentary on where we are than anything.
Maybe I shouldn't bring this up right before the end of the show, but what concerns
go
me,
for it, Bailey. We know that you want to.
What concerns me, someone mentioned like long form versus short form kind of people, and there's different audience for that kind of, appetite.
That was me.
Of court.
Yes.
I worry about the future of the jury of my peers who are impatient about a clip that might be 3 minutes and they don't have the patience for it. Jurors have to sit there and listen to hours and hours of really, antiquated, like very, complicated things, and pay attention to stories. And I do wonder the future of the quality of the jurists out there.
Bailey, this is a whole other topic for another sidebar, but man, did you hit a gold mine there.
You did. We need to write that one down.
Somebody
make a note.
I am going to make a note of it right this minute,
in this attention economy, if it doesn't keep me engaged, if it's not sexy, if it's not, then I'm going to get bored and I'm going to go in there and give a different ruling. I'm just going to go in there and be like, all right, I'm ready to go home. I got to catch up on my TikTok because the judge told me I can't have my friggin' phone. I can't
Bailey,
check social media, and I'm about to lose my damn mind. Okay, sorry.
We dump on Bailey a lot. We tease Bailey a lot for being wrong, and
I deserve
it. Because you know what you do generally. Yeah. However, I'll tell you what, man. When Bailey's on point, I mean this is on point, and I got to tell you, when I was in college and studying communication and media. Back then they were like, well, we're afraid of things turning into the 30-second soundbite and the 60-second soundbite society. I'm like, 60-second soundbite? Ain't nobody got time for that now. Man, wow. 60 seconds sounds like a forever nowadays. Now it's the 6 seconds. Ever since Vine and the original TikTok where everything was like 6 seconds, like that's where we're at now. I mean, we're If it's longer than 10 seconds, I ain't interested. That's how people are now. And you make a great point, but I don't know how, like, these jurors, like, unless they're getting people my age and older, Gen X's and older, I don't know how people are going to sit there. What, are you going to get a Gen Z to sit there? So, like, when do I get my phone back? Like, come on. Like,
I told a friend
that's
of mine
cap.
who's not a lawyer person or law person at all, and but I love him. He loves me, and he's like, "What you doing?" I was like, "I'm listening to an oral argument in the Supreme Court." He's like, "Oh wow." He's like the whole thing. I was like, "Yeah, it's only an hour and like 15 minutes or something. 30 minutes this side, 30 minutes." He's like, "You're listening to that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sitting outside relaxing. This is hot, like, what's it?" He's like, for an hour?" He's like, "I can't watch something past 3 minutes." And I'm like, "Oh no." Like, I mean, I love you to death, and we've been friends forever, but, maybe we don't talk about law. Maybe.
Real world example real quick on Bailey's point, and then we should probably wrap it up. So in the early days of this channel, before we had the live content, I would introduce the videos with a short commentary, and it averaged 45 seconds. I can't tell you how many comments I would get from people who were shut the F up and just show me the video. They couldn't sit there for 45 seconds, even though I was just trying to set up what they would see. Hey, this is what you want to look for to, like, get value out of it, was basically what I was trying to do. And there's just no attention.
It was a crime.
It was
so egregious.
How dare you?
I know it.
You monster.
Yeah. Well,
And yet those same people would then leave comments later, "What is this, AI slop? There's no human here." Like,
that's my favorite. Like, see 20 plus hours of live content we do every friggin' week.
Yeah.
But whatever. People.
Yeah.
People.
Man.
So, as per usual, we accomplished nothing. We accomplished something. We had a good conversation, but we solved nothing, which is what I like about this show. Bailey, any final thoughts?
It's always a joy to be with Team Sidebar, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have Lindsay join us. I love her commentary in the chat. She's got wit, she's smart, she pays attention, and it's just absolutely friggin' hilarious. And it's been fun. Dan, not so much with you, but Mike, you're all right. You're all right too. You're all right.
Well, here's the good news, Bailey. In about a month, I'm going to take 2 weeks off. So if you guys want to do Sidebar, you're going to do it without me. So
you'll be stuck with just me.
Yeah. So you'll enjoy that. It'll be better for you. You won't have to
bolder, fatter dumbass. That's what you'll be stuck with.
With a better radio voice, though.
Well, okay, but the radio face too. So,
do you have other final thoughts, Michael, besides your radio voice and face?
Well, I just want to. I'll piggyback on what Bailey said. Thank you, Lindsay, for joining us. I know you're now scared from ever being here again, and that's normal, I guess. I guess that's the hazing process. And but no, we really do appreciate it. And Bailey really brought it tonight. Dan, you guys, everybody, as always, this was great. We solved nothing but accomplished a lot, and a good conversation. And for the few Gen Zers out there that can actually watch something like this, you are the future, and we look forward to that.
That's
well put, Michael.
Yes.
Lindsay, you get the last word.
As an elder millennial who can hold her attention span, this was wonderful. I'm very happy to be here. Glad I could step in. Have me back anytime. And we be very happy to jump in. We solved nothing, but accomplished a lot, I think. And thank you for having me.
Lindsay, it was a pleasure. Pleasure to have all of you here, as always. So much fun that let's do it again on Thursday.
Yes.
Same bat time, same bat channel. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be back live on this channel tomorrow morning, though, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, a half an hour early for channel members. If you're not a channel member, fix that. Because it's fun. We talk about anything. And on top of that, if you're a channel member, you can hop on stage and have a conversation with me. So do that. All right. I think we're done. Everybody take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, Ashley.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.